Good evening. I see that we have three people here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, welcome to whatever this is, open classroom. Hello, my name is Jerry Ferguson, and I'm the instructor for the class, and I'm glad you could join me. This is a voluntary meeting. You're not required to be here. You're not required to stay. You're not required to do anything. This is more just to get acquainted and see if you had any questions either about the class or just wanted to say hello. So, hello. And who's here and tell me what you'd like to accomplish. Anyone? And if you have any particular questions about this way the class is set up or the website, let me know because I have it turned on here so you can see it and we can navigate through it and I can explain it to you if necessary. Well, just to get us started and to cover some of the basics that often become questions with people that are not familiar with this type of course setup, I'll give you a little bit of navigation, and hopefully that'll stimulate some questions. If you want to ask a question or want to ask an offline question, just jump right in and interrupt. All right. So what you're seeing on this should be seen on the screen right now is the general classroom with the announcements and so forth, including the ones that directed you to our meeting this evening. And you should see a number of messages and introductory material. What I'm scanning through here is the entire course, which you all do not see until the course actually migrates. But you do see these ones at the bottom, which is the course overview telling you about the course materials, and my welcome information for week one. And you should notice that I'm trying each week to reaffirm what the assignments are for the week so that nobody falls behind. And then starting in week two, you're actually going to see that there are PowerPoint presentations that I videotaped for those people that want to have a little bit more reinforcement as far as the reading material. And those PowerPoints cover week 2 through 7, and it's basically the reading material for that week. And it's at a high level. It's not every little nuance of what you would get reading the chapters, but if nothing else, you can use it as a reinforcement or as a replacement for the text if you haven't got your book in time or so forth. All of these that I'm skimming through are ones that you'll see as we progress through the course that are set up in my system, that they come to you as the weeks open. Okay, there's a number, like I said, of announcements. I encourage you to read these as soon as you can if you haven't read them all. And let's go over and look at the classroom per se. And we navigate there by the discussion board. And you all probably have seen this at this point. There's several announcements and comments that I've made relative to the general questions type of thing. And that's what these are right here. They're basically just welcoming you to the class, telling you who I am, giving you a little bit of information to remind you about the My Management Lab. This course does have a My Management Lab questionnaire that you take in 3 different times, week 1, 2, and I think it's week 5. You find them by navigating through this site right here. And this is something you have to subscribe to separately from the class. One of the points I like to make in the beginning, because students sometimes get confused, they take the quiz that's in that area and then they don't see it show up in their grade book immediately, and they're concerned that something's not working right. The quizzes that are in My Management Lab are not linked to the course room, so I have to go in there routinely and manually transfer the grades from there to the classroom. So I go in there several times during the week and I'll update them. So don't get concerned unless you just don't see it move at all. The other thing I like to remind you is that you're entitled to take the quiz up to 3 times during the course. So if the first time you take it, you get a 90 and you want to try and get a 100%. You can take it 2 more times, and whatever your best score is, that's the score that I'll be entering in your gradebook. The only thing to keep in mind from that perspective is that you have to submit your first submission on the questions by the end of the period that they're due. So, for example, the questions that are due in week 1, you have to take that first one before midnight Sunday to be on time. And then anytime during the rest of the class, you can retake it as you see fit. And then I keep going back looking for that. If you do that weeks out of cycle, you might just drop me an email so that I realize I need to make sure I go back and double check. I will always check them in weeks 7 and 8 to make sure they're correct. But if you don't want to don't worry about it, just drop me an email saying that you retook the test in week 5, and I'll go back and check it. Okay, any questions about the lab? Okay. Feel free to jump in anytime. I promise I'm not going to bite anybody's head off. Let's talk a little bit about the discussion. You've probably already read them and mastered them, and since you're here, you're probably already a pro at it. You don't really need the help. The assignments that we're going to be working on for the whole 8 weeks are incremental parts of a completed project, which you'll submit in week 7. So in week 1 through 6, you're doing parts of the final project. So for example, in week 1, we give you this sample of what we're expecting it to look like. And then we have all these questions about Turkey that give you an example of these questions drove this sample submission. And the sample submission kind of looks like this. You, as a student, can choose to orchestrate this whatever fashion works best for you. The one you see here is a Word document that the student created to make it neat and pretty and so forth. You can do that and add it as an attachment, or you can actually embed it into the submission response that you do in the classroom, and I'll show you that in a minute. But you can either do it as an attachment, or you can just do it in the discussion forum. These weekly submittals are you telling a little bit about the country that you choose. You're supposed to choose a country that you want to research. And what you're basically doing in this assignment is you're simulating that you're a research assistant for a major corporation who wants to enter the business market in the country in which you're interested. So for example, the first student that posted in this course chose Poland. And so he'll be talking about what it's like to do business in Poland. And each week we talk about a different topic, everything from finance to trade. This week it's primarily culture. And what you want to do is you want to address these issues you see here on the page. And then in your observation section, you want to try and share what those mean to somebody doing business in that country. You'll do that every week, and each week I'll provide you feedback and additional links for possible additional information. And what you'll do is you'll take the submission that I give you and the comments you get from your fellow students and from me, and you'll tweak it and improve it. And then in the week 3 and in week 6, you will be submitting a draft of the final assignment for me to give you a response back to as far as how well you're doing. What you're going to do is you're going to take these weekly inputs and you're going to use them to build a PowerPoint presentation, which you'll be submitting in week 7 for grade. And that PowerPoint template is available in your course materials. And what you do is you take that and you take this material and you create a PowerPoint presentation as though you were going to be presenting it to the board of your company. So you want to use graphics, you want to use color, you want to use maps, and so forth. The key thing to keep in mind is that it's a PowerPoint to senior management, so you don't want to have PowerPoint slides full of words. You want to use bullets, crisp statements, and most of you have probably worked with PowerPoint before and you're aware of what a speaker's notes are. So your slides should have very crisp, bulletized comments, and then in your speaker's notes, you can put a lot of the data that you retrieve in these weekly reports. It's a relatively simple process. It sounds more complicated than it makes, but you're going to make you're going to make these type of PowerPoint slides hopefully a little bit more graphic than these samples here. And these speakers notes are this area down here, so that a presenter would be able to use the material that you've collected, but not necessarily clutter the PowerPoint presentation for your audience. If your PowerPoint presentations are wordy and full of a lot of words, you tend to lose your audience. So we try to keep them crisp. And you've got and like I said, you'll see the student samples that we give you each week, just to give you an idea what that's going to look like. So you'll be doing that each week, 1 through week 6. You'll be developing new material. Each week will be different, and then you have 2 checkpoint assignments where you put them all together. In week 3, I believe it is, you do the first checkpoint, and you'll be doing week 1, 2, and 3, filling in the template. And that template you'll complete the first third of it or so. And then in week 5, you'll do it again. You'll correct it based on the input that I and your fellow students give you. So each time you resubmit it, you're fine tuning it and tweaking it based on the feedback that I and others give you in the classroom to make it better. And the goal being that by the time you submit it in week 7, it should be a polished project. So I've thrown a lot of details at you relative to the primary assignment, but that's really the crust, besides obviously the reading material and just talking among yourselves about the material. That's the crust of the assignments and the courses. I'm going to show you a little bit more material in a moment, but I'm going to stop for a second. Does anybody have any questions based on what I've shared so far? No? Okay. Well, if you look up here in your course information, most of you have probably already read all this, but in your course information, you've got things such as your assignment guidelines and rubrics. That'll be telling you how to do your assignments and grade them. And then when you go into the learning module, the syllabus is here, by the way, as well. In the learning modules, you've got your assignments lined out as far as when they're due. These are the exercises that I talked about over in the other site. Here are your checkpoints for week 3 and 6 and the final submission in week 7. And then you have your discussion questions. Each then of these modules here, if you open any one of these, we'll go to week 1 and open it. You'll find all the materials relating to when assignments are due and any templates or notes. So for example, here it's telling you that your first post to your discussion forum is due by midnight on Thursday. That's the one where you answer and do your presentation based on the country that you're dealing with. And then by Sunday, you have to post at least 2 other peer comments where you're adding constructive feedback to your peers' Thursday post. And then you've got a video on the overview of the course and the overall material. And you've got your reading material for this week. And then here's your My Management Lab information about their video. And then the final project review and the grading rubric and guidelines for this week. So each week, you'll go here to open this material up to get the details that you need to complete that weekly assignment and to verify when the dates are due. Any questions about that? And then these are links that give you some general description of the course and your expectations for the course. Any comments? If you've been with SNU for a while, then you know that this link right here gives you biographical information about me, as well as an email address and a telephone number. I'm on Central Time. If you need to talk to me, feel free to give me a call. I would ask to try and keep it other than in the middle of the night. So, take an allowance as far as the time, depending on your time zone. And then everything else basically falls in line with your normal classwork. You've got your discussions and you've got a bunch of tools and contact information that you can use over here as far as emails and so forth. So I'm going to shut up for a minute and see, do any of you have any questions relative to the overview I've given you on the course? Do you have any questions of me personally, as far as my background or? Well, then let's reverse it a little bit and see if I can't force you all to at least say hello. Why don't each of you just say hello and tell me what you do for a living, if you have an outside job, and where you live. You want to start, Haley? Or
all right, good evening, everyone. My name is Javier Perez. I'm in the Marine Corps right now. I'm an operations chief for a recruiting station for Lauderdale. So obviously I'm in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So looking forward for this week.
Great. Congratulations, and thank you for your service to our country.
Same to you, sir.
I miss the Navy every day. 30 years, and I've been finished for I guess now 10 years, and I still miss it every day. Scott or Healy, you want to say anything? Or are you still here? Oh, you have? Okay. Scott says that he's a field technician for a Japanese company based in Cincinnati, and he says, unfortunately, his mic is horrible and not working properly. Okay. Do you have any questions, Scott, that I can answer for you, since you have my attention on the text? Okay. All righty. So I'm familiar with Cincinnati. I used to work for a company and lived in Hamilton, Ohio. So I've lived in Columbus, Ohio, and I lived in Marion, Indiana, and Evansville, Indiana. So I've been all around you. Okay. Haley, do you have anything you'd like to share? Promise we won't bite. Or would you rather just text? Okay. Maybe she's not here any longer. All right. So basically, the what you've seen is the rudimentaries of the course. My philosophy on it is I'm looking for people to make progressive improvement. When in doubt, feel free to drop me an email and ask questions. I'd much rather help somebody early on in the course than find out at the end of the course they were confused or had a problem. I've been teaching undergraduate and graduate for 14 years, so I have a pretty good amount of experience with these systems. And I've spent the last 40 years in business or the Navy. I did 6 years active and 24 years reserve. Retired as a Navy captain, and I spent my last 6 years as a field commander for Central Command, and lived with the Marines. So that's how I spent my last 6 years in the Navy. The goal of this course is to help students to get into the groove of taking courses online, and in many cases, it's the first or one of the first courses that a student will take. The other part of it is a lot of them, it may be one of their first courses online. I like to share with students that I do empathize. I got my undergraduate degree in a brick and mortar school. My first MBA I got from a brick and mortar back in the early 70s when I decided I wanted to teach. They required your degree to be more current than that, so I took another MBA and got it online. And I found the online experience extremely rewarding, and I enjoy it immensely. So I teach at 8 different universities as an adjunct. I teach here. I teach at South Dakota. I teach at Green Mountain College. I teach at National Graduate School, American Public University. I teach at Southwest University. I teach at about 3 other schools that I'm off and on as far as when they have a need for it, including Indiana Wesleyan and Texas A&M. So that's really all I had to share. I wanted to primarily be here to welcome you to class and answer any concerns you might have, and to reassure anyone that was apprehensive about the process or the course. Most students do extremely well in this course if they just focus on the material and focus on the examples, and try and think of this as being a professional presentation, and therefore give it some thought about making it look good, using some graphics, using color, using maps, and keeping it crisp and to the point. Pick your country well. Before you finalize it, you might want to just do a little bit of jump around research on the internet to make sure you're going to have access to good material. If you pick a country that's kind of ambiguous or recently formed, sometimes it's difficult to find the information that you're looking for. So I'm going to shut up, see if anyone else has anything they'd like to share or ask. If not, then I'm gonna let us close the session. I just wanted to at least see if this would help at all. If students find this rewarding, I may have another one later in the course just to let people have a data point set. So any comments or questions? You're welcome, Scott. I'm glad I could help you. Like I said, I'm not sure if Haley is still here or not. She may have logged in and isn't physically here. Okay. Well, rather than just keep you here for another 30 minutes just for the sake of keeping here, unless anyone has any questions, I'm going to let everybody go and I'll just shut this down and we'll get started in class. Class officially started today, so make sure you get that first post in your country with your country information in by midnight on Thursday so that you don't lose points. They do take off points for each day you're late if you don't submit by time. So if you have to focus on anything, focus on answering that first question with the graph and the data that you see sampled. As a closing note, if you look at the discussion board, there is one student who's already posted their information. It's on Poland. He did a reasonably nice job with it. He used the method of embedding it right into his post rather than as an attachment, and that's fine. This was a reasonably good job. And if you notice, I've given him some feedback. You're going to find that each of you is going to get a similar feedback post to this one, except I customize it for your specific country and your specific information. So while it may look the same as someone else's, yours will be customized for your submission and your country. But you could use his as I guess what I'm saying, just to give you an idea of what it might look like. And then just try to jump in and chat with your fellow students or with me. Ask me questions if you wish. The more we get engaged, the more we can enjoy the class. If no one has anything else, then I'm gonna propose we go ahead and shut down for the evening. I thank you all for giving up some of your personal time. If you have a need to meet with me either by phone or in this fashion, and you let me know by email, I'll be happy to set up another one of these or meet you on the telephone if you have any questions. Otherwise, you're free to go, and I'll wait a few minutes and then shut this site down.
All right, sir. Have a good night.
All right. Thank you for coming.